So 3.15 Expedition League did get off to a pretty solid start. We didn't have any issues with servers going down or any giant controversies or anything like that. We just had a bunch of changes that most people didn't like. Now there has been a patch that has addressed that, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. However, if you are starting the league late, either maybe you're a console player who hasn't begun their league yet, or maybe you were sick or something else happened over the weekend and you really just couldn't play any PoE and you're just not getting into it. Or maybe you're someone that's still sitting on the fence and hasn't decided if they want to play this league yet. I'm going to give you all the information you need. We're going to talk about the meta that kind of developed. Some things did change, but a lot of the same old is still here. So we are going to talk about all of that and more. Hey guys, remember to like the video if you're enjoying this content. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see more content like this, and without further ado, let's get into it. Now, as I said before, there were some change-ups that did happen. However, you're going to see a lot of the same names, a lot of the same stuff here. It's my personal league start videos. Creeping Frost did fine. It is still just a new player build that is not really super recommended for people doing, higher end content or wanting to push faster, but it did fine. Poison Blade Vortex Assassin, I tested some in Standard and it ended up being perfectly fine. Most people ended up going with the Toxic Rain Raider, which is the one that I did suggest, and that is the one that I played, and it went extremely well. Now, talking about the actual meta, and if you're wondering about what you should league start if you are starting late, there were a couple takeaways here. So this is day, I think like 5 or something like that, so let's go back to day 1. Now, on day 1, you can see the majority of people actually pushed with Saboteurs. Now, this is because Ice Trap got really popular. There were a couple prominent community members that were talking up traps very heavily. Some guides went pretty viral, and Saboteurs ended up being very, very popular. Now, this didn't end up being the most popular ascendancy out of all, but it did end up being the day 1 most popular ascendancy. So Ice Trap, definitely a very, very good start. I think that the Ice Trap Saboteur is very strong. Some people were playing Fireball as well, which was really good for bossing, but that is the majority of the Saboteurs. Beyond that, one of the things that I didn't expect to be this way was just how popular normal Spectre builds went. I'm talking like just go look at Kay's builds or Gazzy's builds or any normal Spectre build that people have been playing forever now. Spectres ended up just being insanely popular, again, even more so than before. And then the last one was going to be the Toxic Rain Raider. Toxic Rain Raider did get quite popular. 53% of Raiders were Toxic Rain, and the rest of them were Caustic Arrow, which most of the time these were together. And that was the majority of people who did the league start. Now, those were things that we were kind of expecting. However, there are a few outliers and new abilities that I wasn't fully expecting to be as good as they were, and that we're going to have to go to the latest snapshot to see. Now, interestingly, like I said before, Necromancer is just the standard summoner. It's Spectre Necromancer ended up being ridiculously popular. 53% of people playing Necromancer ended up playing Raised Spectre, and it is currently 21% of the latter. This is followed by Raider once again. It's mostly Toxic Rain. Toxic Rain is very good right now, and then Saboteur and so on. However, the thing that was very interesting to me that got very popular is Spectral Shield Throw. This build ended up being a lot more popular than I expected it to be. Now, this Spectral Shield Throw build, there's a couple different ones floating around, but it did end up being pretty good. A lot of people are going bleed with it. You can see some like Crimson Dance and stuff going on here if we click some random guy. Yeah, so there's a couple people playing this kind of build. It's pretty interesting, and then there is also going to be another build that got pretty popular out of the new skills, and that is going to be Forbidden Rite, and it's mainly with totems. Now, Forbidden Rite totems did end up being pretty good. I personally want to try to find some kind of self-cast version, but totems did end up being the go-to, and this just makes it significantly easier. All of the downsides are taken away, and it has mostly upsides, but it is a totem build, so do keep that in mind. Beyond that, about the same stuff as always. You can play most of the same stuff previously. I would say stay away from the typical melee like crit impale type builds. Those ended up being pretty bad, but most other things that were popular before ended up being okay. This is PoEninja.com. You can always come and take a look at this if you're interested in what the current meta is, but that's pretty much it for what's happened in the meta. So the takeaway, my suggestions, if you want to play another Spectre build over and over and over again for like the 8th league in a row, it's going to be perfectly fine right now. Toxic Rain Raider is very good. Saboteurs, mainly the Ice Trap build is going to be really solid. Spectral Shield Throw, mostly Gladiators and some Raiders. And then Forbidden Rite totems. That seems to be what most people are playing right now. The meta will expand over time, but if you're looking for a solid league starter, make sure to look for those builds. Now, beyond that, we did get a new patch, 3.15.0D. This is the one that was trying to address all of the concerns that people had with Flasks as well as mana. A lot of people were getting really upset with this. There's a bunch of interesting stuff in here, and notably, like, goatmen were being nerfed because they were having difficulty in late game maps. People were just getting randomly one-shot, like, from off-screen by these goatmen and things like that, so they nerfed that a little bit. However, some of the main takeaways are that the new immunity to poison, ignite, shock, and freeze and chill are now going to be 4 seconds instead of 1. This is something that I probably could have said from the get-go. Maybe they should have started at like 2 or 3. I really think 1 second was pushing it pretty hard. Another thing that ended up being interesting was the immunity to corrupted blood. The fact that the of staunching flask did not grant immunity to corrupted blood if it was used to remove corrupting blood was such an oversight, it was kind of ridiculous. Anytime you ran into a corrupting blood mob and you didn't have a way to like deal with that particular bleed, and you were a build that hit often at all, I'm talking like more than like once or twice a second, you were just dying almost instantly. It was ridiculous. They added in some extra stuff here, like some buffs for Reaper, some buffs for Blade Trap. Absolution got like a absolutely ridiculous buff. You could tell that this ability was bad. I know a lot of people thought that this ability was going to be bad, but I mean, like, look at this. Sentinels of Absolution now deal 242% to 429% more damage at gem level 20. It was bad. And then the big change that most people are going to be talking about is going to be the mana changes. Look at how many gems that they had to change the mana back on. It's a lot of gems, and most builds will be a little bit happier with their mana now. There's a ton of good stuff in here. It affects most builds in the game, so that is definitely a big bonus. We're going to get, you know, mana won't be such a horrible problem anymore, hopefully. Now, I do want to give some quick initial thoughts on Expedition League as a whole. I might make a video about this later, talking more specifically, maybe after they've made some changes and things like that, but I do have some quick thoughts about what to think about going forward. I feel like there's a lot of visual clarity problems here. I mean, I know that's the meme. I know that GGG has issues with visual clarity and they take art above all, and that's fine. But it's just very, very basic stuff. Like the fact that I can't see where the circles are after I place them. Like, just let me see the circles. Just make like an outline on the map so I can see where the circles are after I place them. The fact that a lot of the more dangerous mods, like monsters will always crit, are not like highlighted in some way. I think that there should be some more modifiers that are highlighted a little bit more than just like, hey, these enemies are immune to damage, which is a whole nother can of worms. I know most people will be like, well, just don't open them, and my thoughts are that, why would you make something completely immune to damage? I mean, I know that you can just skip it, but I've ran into multiple circumstances where there's like 2 or 3 just completely immune chests all next to each other, and it's like, oh, cool, so I just don't get that loot. And there's nothing I can really do, better log into another character. My problem is that it never feels good to see those things, and it almost always feels bad when you do run into chests that are just immune to your damage. I don't really see it as a difficulty thing, I just kind of see it as an annoyance kind of thing, because when you get a chest that's really good and then it's immune to the damage, it's like, okay, well, I guess I just can't have fun here, I'll just move on, right? And it just kind of sucks. I don't feel like it's something that's like an interesting or like a difficult choice or anything. It's just like, oh, well, yeah, I can't do that. All right, cool, move on. So, I mean, Expedition looks like it's pretty good. There have been some slight buffs to how it's supposed to work. We're getting some like bug fixes to it. Apparently like bosses for Expedition weren't spawning like at all or something like that. Who knows? We're gonna have to do a little bit more testing with it to see. Now that is pretty much gonna be it for the video. So the TLDR of everything is that there are a couple new builds, but a bunch of the old just standard League Start builds ended up being pretty good. Toxic Rain Raider was pretty solid. Ice Trap Saboteur is pretty solid. The standard Spectre build just ended up being really good, as it always is. And then we got some new stuff like Forbidden Right Totems as well as Spectral Shield Throw ended up being pretty good. All in all, the meta did get shaken up a little bit, but it kind of feels about what I thought it was before, that all of these nerfs would make people play a lot safer, but we're gonna have to see how the meta develops from here. Remember guys, if you enjoy this content, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this, and stay safe out there in raid class, and I will see you guys in the next video.